Hi, I'm your host, Marcia Florence with Just Ask. Today our guest is Wright Filippis. Hurry back and join us. Hi, I'm your host, Marcia Florence for Just Ask. Today we're here on location with Wright and Filippis, and our guest is the founder, Tony Filippis himself, and the branch manager, Ken Ike. Hi, Tony. Hi, Ken.
Hi.
Glad to be here. Thank you. Now this is a little different for us to be here on location at such a facility. So we're going to start off with Tony Filippis, the founder himself. I want to ask you some questions. Can you tell me how you got started, Tony?
Well, at the age of 12, I was, 12 and a half. I hopped a train, fell off, and lost both limbs. Consequently, it was hard for me to get a job because this being disabled, and people called you cripple. I mean, called you cripple. And so eventually, I was hired 3 times. Each time I was fired because I was called cripple, because in them days, I could fool them. But so then Wright offered me a job, and Voc Rehab paid for it, the training, a pair of limbs. But so I worked under him for from 34 to 44. Then in 44, the owner died, and the woman took over, and the place it just didn't go anyway. So we went in business together.
Okay, so Wright was your partner.
Yeah,
Is that how the name came about, Wright and Filippis?
That's right.
Okay. So Mr. Wright was actually part of the reason that you started the business?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and you were were you a Michigan rehabilitation client? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so
vocational.
Okay, so they've been around a long time.
Well, yeah. It's Simpson Street.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, they're expanding now. They're all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So now that was in 1944. You actually became partners with the Wright family.
April 44.
Okay. Yeah. And then from there, how did you go?
Well, I was young, and I roller. I'd done everything. So he used me, well, the company that I worked for used me for demonstration, because in them days competition was rough. I mean, you went out and even.
So you had to say, so you were part of the reason that the sales went just right.
Yeah, my partner was a beautiful worker, but he wasn't a salesman. And me, I was.
So you were a salesman.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I worked too. Hey, I cut these down.
Okay. Now tell us a little about this. So this is a piece of tree trunk. What is that? What is that?
Well, in them days, the limbs were made out of wood, and we'd cut down a tree in the fall when the sap was down, and then split it, and then trim the outside, and then seal the ends, bore a hole so it would dry, and then
okay.
In 3 years you'd start using it.
Okay. So we're looking at some of the pieces that were made, say, like in the early 40s and 50s. These pieces here.
Before that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'd say this was in the 30s.
Okay.
Because I made these when I worked for the Halston Company. Then later, when we went in business, then companies, Ohio Willow Wood, start making these, and we would buy them commercially.
Okay.
But it was still wood.
Now, at that time, was a lot of persons with disabilities, was it mostly amputees, legs or arms, or was it just mostly legs that you guys made?
Legs.
Okay.
Later on, the punch presses start knocking hands off, but mostly legs.
Okay.
And diabetics, and in them days, you know, they had no cure for diabetics. I mean, my mother, she had no medication, and so they would lose their limb.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
many a diabetic.
So actually, this was good business even in the 30s and 40s.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, then the other thing is, there was only 2 companies, too.
2 companies.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
and all this was in Michigan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had all of 4 employees.
Just 4?
4.
Okay.
Between the both companies, there were probably about, at the most, 8, 10 prostitutes
Okay.
in them days.
Okay. Now, you're a licensed prosthetist? Is that what it is?
Well, certified.
Certified prosthetist. Okay. Okay.
I'm certified in orthotist both.
Okay. Okay. Well, we don't want to leave Ken out here. So, Ken, I want you to introduce yourself because I know you're a branch manager, but you have a long title there. So, what is
Right,
it?
actually, I'm a certified prosthetist. Tony is both certified prosthetist and orthotist. I went to school at UCLA. Just to give you a little bit of background, you have to have a 4-year degree to get into the school, and you take the prosthetic course there, come back and do a year's internship. After you complete your internship, then you take a test that consists of 4 exams. And once you pass those, then you're certified.
Okay.
Yeah. And after that, then you have to get 75 credits every 5 years of continuing education to maintain that certification.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, your job here as a branch manager is what?
Oh, as a branch manager, I oversee the entire department, not just the prosthetics, but also the orthotics, all the durable medical equipment, and make sure the people come in, they get what they need.
Okay, okay. Now, how many offices, because I know this couldn't just be the one location, how many offices are there?
I believe Wright Filippis now has about 28 offices.
Okay.
It seems to change almost on a weekly basis, but right now it's about 28.
Okay, that's 28 in Michigan alone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you give us an example or tell us a little bit about the pieces here we're looking at on the table?
Well, fortunately, which is a good thing, I wasn't around when most of these were used. The wood sockets were used about 45 years ago. Like Tony was saying, you actually had to predict how many legs you were going to make 3 years from now, so you could go out and cut down the proper number of trees. Now, since I've been in the field now for about 10 years, we use a laminated socket that is made out of fiberglass and acrylic and materials like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The progression was from the wood socket. Tony would take a socket and hollow a hole out in the center, and then he would use his pulling tool. And the pulling tool would go down inside that hole, and he could hollow the socket out just by looking at the patient. He could take a look at a patient's limb and go in the back and hollow a socket out and have it fit. Now that's something that they
Wow.
don't even teach you in school nowadays.
Okay.
Now, from the wood sockets, we also, or Tony used to, make leather sockets similar to this, where the clinician would actually mold leather over top of the patient's limb or a cast.
Now, what year would this be about?
Tony, would this?
That was see, when the plastics come out, then of course this was discontinued.
Right.
Okay.
So that I would say
Is this in the
about
50s?
59.
Okay.
We start making these out of plastic about 59.
Okay.
When you look
60.
at this prosthesis, even the metal joints were hand forged. They made every single component in this prosthesis. They didn't have the luxury that I have of being able to order a prosthetic knee or
Right.
a foot from a company. They had to make everything right from wood.
Oh, okay. So now, is this considered the foot that goes into a shoe? Is this a foot, Tony?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's all
So
hand carved.
I see. You know, I kept thinking. I'm like, now, so a person with a stump. This would be what a person with a stump could go in here.
The socket, which is formed from this piece of wood, would be attached
Yeah.
to the foot
Oh.
using all hand-forged componentry,
Okay.
single-axis joints and such. So yeah, the socket would be attached to the foot, and then the patient would walk on this.
Okay. All right. I was thinking about Geppetto when I saw this, but okay. Okay, so now this piece right here, this metal piece, what is this metal? Let me reach over here and get this. What is this metal piece?
See, the limbs were heavy, so they went into making them out of aluminum, and I think we done 150 some at the Halsted Company. But what happened? Someplace there would be a little looseness, and it would squeak like a bell. And you'd walk down the street and everybody would look at you. And we had 156 of those, and they were just like a bell ringing. So we had to replace all of them.
Okay.
And the reason they've done this is because of the lightness.
Oh, okay. Okay, now, was there a transitional time that it went from wood to metal or aluminum, or which one was first?
The wood was first.
Okay.
This went in at the same time, which was good. They didn't discontinue the wood. So that was, we were building them at the same time for more money because it was later.
Okay.
So it was lucky that, and then it was discontinued because, boy, it's just like a bell every step.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds like a lot to do there. And you said there was only probably 4 or 5 workers at the time actually developing all these pieces?
Where I worked, there was only 5 of us.
Okay.
And we had one competitor. That's before I went in business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But it seemed like more at the time that you were doing this, because you were a double amputee, you understood the customers better? Did you understand your clients better because you knew how you felt?
You know what? That's a misconception. It all depends on the man. You know, everybody says, gee, you wear 2 legs, you should be the best prosthetist in the world. Well, this isn't true because my partner did not have an amputation, and he was one hell of a better prosthetist than I was.
Okay.
So that doesn't always hold true.
Okay.
It helps in that you understand the man's problems, you know, and it does help. But to say that because the fella's an amputee, that's false.
Okay.
He's being a bit modest right now. I've seen Tony walk into patient rooms with myself, and just because he's an amputee and he has all this experience, it gives the patient a real sense of security. They trust him. If I'm ever having trouble with patients, even now, I can go get Tony. He walks in the room, and within 2 minutes, that patient has his full trust, or he has their full trust, and he's able to fit them very effectively. So it definitely gives him an edge, and it really complements his abilities.
Okay.
But because you're not an amputee, you can be a darn good prosthetist.
That's true too. And Ken's proof. Okay, now, okay. Now tell me about the population of people that you work with.
Well, as Tony was saying earlier, most of his patients early on were diabetics, and that's still the case today. About 87%, definitely over 85% of the people we work with are either diabetic or have some sort of peripheral vascular disease. So when people think of amputations, they think of train accidents or car accidents and such, but it's really not the case. The bulk of our population are older, and they have some sort of peripheral vascular disease.
Okay.
Another 10 or 12% have traumatic amputations because of an accident, and then maybe 2 or 3% are congenital or from birth. They have some sort of birth defect.
Okay. What's the youngest age?
Well, we begin fitting patients with legs at about 10 months old. I've fit several patients here in the Rochester office, and even though the children aren't walking yet, they use the prosthesis for sitting balance. And especially if you think of an upper extremity, if they're missing an arm on one side, they're not going to be able to sit up level. They're going to want to fall to one side. So you try to fit the patients when they start to sit.
Oh, okay. That's good. Okay, so the age criteria is basically when, okay, now if it's a newborn child and the child is born without the limb, you can fit them as far as how far in advance? How many months would this prosthesis part?
We would start the fitting around 9 or 10 months old, something like that. I actually had a patient that actually walked at 10 months old. He walked before my daughter or son did at a year. So there's nothing about the amputation that's going to hold these kids back. I mean, they can walk just as quickly. They can play all the sports. It really, and it's fun to work with kids like that.
Now, do you find it more easily to work with children in the respect that they are adaptable to the equipment more so than
you better believe it.
Yeah.
But a lot of our kids don't even require physical therapy. You fit them with the prosthesis.
Training.
Yeah, they just take off.
Okay.
The most difficult part of it, though, is they can't tell you when something's wrong. When you're fitting a 10-month-old child and it hurts on the outside of their leg, they don't even know how to talk yet. They can't convey, well, you know what, it feels a little bit tight at the top. So you have to, the parents and yourself have to try and guess, where the problems are. So in some respects, they learn a lot quicker, but it's more difficult for them to communicate when things aren't quite right.
So your older customers are more or less rebellious because they're set in their ways, or they're mostly depressed because they know that they're at this age and they've lost the limb?
Yeah. Well, they've just entered into probably the most difficult time in their life. losing a limb is emotionally very traumatic, and they're older, so they don't have the strength and the coordination that the younger kids do. So they're really looking at quite a hurdle to get over. But it's really rewarding to see them at that difficult time in their life, and then a couple months down the road to see them walking, get them up and moving, and get them back to doing the things they were doing before.
Okay, what's the oldest client? Besides Tony, what's the what's the oldest client?
Tony's not even close to the oldest.
Okay.
No, I've fit a man 90 years old.
Okay.
You see today, we can keep people alive, but we can't keep them from, the circulation gets bad.
Right.
And we can keep the heart going, replace the heart, but an amputation you can't. So the people are living much longer, and because the medicine and stuff like that, and then but they'll lose a leg. They
Right.
can't.
Right.
they
Some of the
can't-
medication is so strong that it can deteriorate another body part, which would, cause for an amputation of that body part. So especially diabetes. So diabetes is one of those
Yeah.
that affect the limbs, and people lose toes, whole foots, legs.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times it'll start with a toe, and then after several amputations or different surgeries, then they'll end up having either a below the knee or above the knee amputation.
And the majority of your population, as far as prosthetics is concerned, are senior citizens. It's, years ago when I was young, it was always the younger people, but today it's all older people.
Okay. All right. Well, gentlemen, we're going to take a commercial break, and we're going to come back with some more good information. We'll be right back.
Come on, Aaron, baby. Now do it, baby. Now do it.
What should you do to stop a friend from driving drunk? Whatever you have to.
Hi, and welcome back to the second half of the show. For those of you who are just now joining us, we're here with Wright and Filippis, Tony Filippis, the founder, and Ken Ike, the branch manager. Now, gentlemen, we left off with some very good information here, and I know our viewing audience is just tickled to be here and see some of the things that's in this facility. But I did want to find out, Tony, what is your involvement with the community? Because I know you've done a lot with...
In 46, I started the first swimming, Patton Pool Park. The city of Detroit furnished an instructor from Wayne, and we reserved that every Saturday night. Then I started golf in 48, and but in them days, no carts. They had to walk. Today they.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have all kinds of fun drives. The picnic that in fact this year Rosa Parks group joined us. We expect about 12 to 1,500 people, and we're involved in a lot of where people are poor. We furnish wheelchairs or prosthetics.
Now, I noticed you come to a lot of people's rescue over the years, because a lot of times wheelchairs are stolen from patients, and prosthetic parts are stolen from patients, and we often hear about you on the news as being the charitable giver to replace that person's wheelchair and or prosthetics. That's very, very, very admirable of you. And that's basically how Just Ask had heard about you as well, because we kept seeing this person's face up on the screen, and Wright and Filippis replaced the stolen wheelchair. How do you feel about stuff like that?
It's the best thing. You make money, and who do you make it on? These people. And when they need something, who do you help them? And you know what? Remember, I was there once. Somebody helped me. They got me limbs, and they're responsible for me to be in the position that I am now. 3 generations of Filippises. Hey, what can you beat? How can you beat that?
Okay. Now, this picnic that you have, that's your annual picnic. That's the wheelchair
Days. This
wheelchair
is
days picnic.
yes. This is the 20th year.
Okay. And that picnic, is it mostly for children or adults or families? How is that?
It's for children and their families. We're not going to babysit, because if as far as Wright Filippis is concerned, if you're not family, we don't want to have anything to do with it.
Okay.
This year, Tony, in the 20th year, he's actually dedicating a gazebo and 6 park benches, isn't it?
Yeah.
To the place that's allowed us to have it out there, Independence Oaks.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's going to be quite a year for us.
That's nice. That's nice. Now, Ken, you have some new things on the table here. What do you have?
Well, I thought I would show you some of the things that that make me glad I'm a prosthetist now and not back when Tony had to get started.
Okay.
Some of the more modern componentry we have, instead of the wood sockets now, we use silicone sleeves that go against the patient's skin. You can feel how nice and soft that is and
Okay.
cushioned. You can imagine having wood against your skin.
Okay.
So this allows the patients to be much more active. The feet that are available nowadays are made out of carbon fiber and different elastomers, and this allows the patient to be much more active. You can imagine rolling over on a wooden foot as opposed to putting weight on something that's carbon and allowing it to spring you forward.
Okay.
These types of feet actually give energy back to the patient as they're walking.
Now, I believe I've seen an athlete rather, with this particular
Yeah, that's
foot.
called a flex foot, and it's
Okay.
it's one of the more active feet that allow patients to run,
Okay.
allow them to really get back to doing what they want to do.
Okay.
And do you know that the champ runner with a prosthetic is a little over 1 second slower than
Really?
Able
That's
body,
right.
yes.
Okay.
2 seconds at the most. That's right.
Okay.
In fact, we hold an exercise class for the handicapped. In fact, we're going to have a big one this year.
Yep.
Okay.
And get kids involved in sports. And today they're starting to walk up and down stairs.
Well, we have to be there when you do that. Okay.
Some of the ways that we finish the prosthesis now, instead of using the leather over top of the wood, we use silicone elastomers that not only give it a very cosmetic look to it, but also make it
Okay.
water resistant.
Right.
So
It even
patients-
feels different. Okay.
And this particular prosthesis is a swimming prosthesis, so patients can not only use it in the pool, but standing in the shower to get support from both legs so there's no danger of falling. It's something
Okay.
that we've patented and designed here at Wright Filippis.
Okay. It's nice. And what else do you have under there?
We have an endoskeletal prosthesis that shows some of the aluminum and the titanium that we use to finish the prosthesis now, and also some more of the soft liners.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your patients actually can come in and get a choice of whatever.
Yes,
Okay.
whatever. We do a full evaluation and find out what's most appropriate for the patient,
Okay.
and then we go ahead and provide what we can.
Okay.
But now that I've showed you all this, why don't we go out and show you some of the other products that are available here at Wright Filippis.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a tour of Wright Filippis, and remember, this is what we call a day at Wright Filippis.
All right, Leonard, I'm going to take the prosthesis off here, and I want you to point to the area that you were having pain in the socket before, in the front of the bone.
Okay. Yeah, well, you can see
Right in-
right in that.
Right
See
in
how,
that area.
right now, all I have is a little bit redness, but it doesn't hurt.
So it's feeling better then?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I have no hurt at all.
Can you bend your knee for me? Good. Straighten it out. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and show me how you put the liner back on? There you go. Now sometimes the post is sticking down a little bit. Does it still lock in for you?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let's do a little bit of walking. Good. Okay, back and forth a couple more times. This prosthesis does walk a lot better for you. Yeah, than what the other one did. All right, why don't you have a seat there? Okay, and why don't you take it off for me? I'm going to add a single ply sock. I actually do think, I think it's a little bit loose. Have you ever had to add a sock to it?
No, because I wouldn't be able to get it in. It's just right now for getting it,
Is it?
getting the screw to lock in.
Yeah. Let me just try this. And if it doesn't work, we'll take it right back off again. How's that sound? Okay. What's that feel like to you now?
I feel snugger.
Yeah. You know, I think your gait even improved.
Pardon?
I think you're walking more straight. I think you're walking better.
Yeah, well, it feels a little snugger now,
Yeah.
that's why.
Yeah. I think that looks good. All right. Take it easy. All right. Good enough. All right. We're good at this, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. We've done it a few
We've done it a
times,
couple
yeah.
times, yeah.
Wow, Ken. Now that was something totally different. Tony, Ken, I can't believe what we just seen. And actually, we haven't seen enough. So, you know, we definitely have to come back and do part 2 to this part, because now our guest needs to see, well, our audience needs to see the fitting and fabrication of the technology being done here.
The other thing that your audience needs to see is one last product that I didn't show you yet. This is a brace that allows you or anyone else to feel what it's like to walk on a prosthesis. You can see the foot is attached to the brace, so in part 2, I think we're going to see you walk with an artificial limb.
Okay. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard what he said. In part 2, I'll do my best to try to walk in the brace. But as usual, you know who I am. I'm your host, Marsha Florence, for Just Dance. We want to thank Tony and we want to thank Ken both, and we will see you on part 2. So once again, if you know someone with a disability, don't be afraid to ask. Just ask. I'm your host, Marsha Florence. Thank you.
Dad, where are you going?
I'm gonna play a little golf.
Why?
Because it's Saturday